This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hey, John, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I had a two-parter if that's okay. You mentioned Arkansas. Eric.
Why do you always talk about Arkansas? But go ahead.
Well, why do you always talk about Kentucky?
One of the great moments of SEC Media Days yesterday in Birmingham. Bob Holt's with us right now. I believe he's on his way back from Media Days towards Fayetteville. Bob, I guess you kind of knew that we were going to play that. That got a lot of play. How are you, and where are you?
Well, yeah, we're on our way back. Me and Scotty's driving. I'm just over here chilling out. But that thing really blew up. I didn't really think that much about it at the time. It was just sort of a little, lighthearted exchange. But I guess you never know what's going to, catch people's attention. But yeah, we're somewhere. I think we just passed Tupelo, so I guess we're in Mississippi. Unless they moved Tupelo to Alabama, which I think it's still in Mississippi. So we're in Mississippi.
Well, that makes me a little bit nervous on our ability to keep you because you know about that cell phone service in Mississippi. But anyway, we'll keep you as long as we possibly can. So Media Days yesterday, and of course everybody's going to talk about your little back and forth there with Coach Cal. But it's legit. I mean, there were legit reasons to bring up Arkansas to Kentucky and maybe vice versa. And I don't know how much, Musk got questioned about Kentucky, but I think Cal got a lot of questions about Arkansas. And these right now, I mean, these are probably the two teams. They are picked 1 and 2 as far as things go in the media poll, but they might have separated themselves from everybody else in the league right now. And so there's a good reason for asking about the two teams. They do play each other twice, and I don't know, it seems like the reason they're on the schedule twice against each other is because they're so darn good.
Well, yeah, I mean, the very last regular season game is Kentucky at Arkansas on CBS, and, that's not a coincidence. So we obviously have to see how the season plays out, but the reason that's the last game on CBS is because, the TV people obviously feel like that's going to be a significant game. Maybe it'll be to decide the SEC championship. And, you'll have a couple of top 10 teams going at it, so they'll get, high TV ratings and be battling, if I say possibly for the conference title, maybe for higher seeds in the NCAA Tournament. And so, Kentucky's number 1 in the poll, Arkansas is number 2. I know Eric downplays that stuff, but, I think he likes the fact that I think he likes having a team that's in the preseason top 10 poll. That means you're getting a lot of attention. That helps recruiting. They have a lot of eyeballs on them. Obviously, they got a great recruiting class. They had some good transfers. And it's funny to think a team that was really good last year, an Elite 8 team, lost every starter. Only has, Devo Davis, obviously a good player. Kamani Johnson, gave him some good minutes. But, a mostly new team, 11 newcomers, and yet right now they're projected to do better than they did last year.
Yeah, Bob. This is Matt Jones here. How's it going, buddy?
It's going. How you doing, Matt?
Your voice. Yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. I was looking at the preseason rankings, and Phil and I were talking about this yesterday. I think the last team to be preseason number 1 was Duke in 2001 that went the distance. And that being said, why do you think that is? You think the kids are just this young, or do you think it is just the kind of the turnover that each year that these teams are not the same, nowhere near the same, that there's a lot of turnover in all these teams?
Well, yeah, in the NCAA tournament, yeah, there is a lot of turnover. Kentucky's obviously was sort of the first program to do a lot of the one and dones, and then Duke started doing it, and now we had it with Moses Moody at Arkansas, and the way Eric's recruiting, I mean, I think we're pretty convinced Nick Smith's going to be the one and done. Probably Anthony Black, possibly Jordan Walsh, maybe some other guys, and then, but that means you're getting the talent, and you're developing it, and the NBA, kids see those guys go to the NBA after 1 year, well, then they want to go to your program too. That's how Kentucky kept getting those classes year after year. But I do think you want to have a good blend. You want to have talent, obviously, but also helps if you have some older players. And it's interesting because Kentucky has, Oscar Sheway now and Severe Wheeler. Those guys are both seniors. but they also have some really good, talented young players. And Arkansas's got some older guys. Like I say, Devo Davis going into his third year. I think Ricky Council will be a junior. He's a talented player. Trevor Brazil's only a sophomore, but he's got, a high ceiling. And then they've got some other guys. But, and the NCAA tournament is such a crapshoot. It's one and done. And, it's hard to believe Kentucky has not been to a Final Four. I think I got this right. I think they haven't been to a Final Four since 2015. That's just really hard to believe. And, there's just a lot of parity in college basketball. And I think at the NCAA tournament time, some of those mid-majors who have, a bunch of seniors and juniors, they can be very dangerous to the more talented Power 5 teams that have a lot of young guys who maybe a bunch of freshmen that haven't even played in the NCAA tournament before.
It's very true. There's, when you're 24, 22, you're just a little stronger than when you're 17. You're just you're able to be more physical, and then you play together. That's very true.
You've also overcome a lot more things, a lot more adversity, injuries, maybe a lot more losses, getting chewed out more, and, turns you into a better person, better player. And once you learn from those experiences, Bob, there's a lot of talk about expansion of the NCAA tournament. What did I see? Bryce Drew is advocating for adding a whole new layer of the tournament, just throwing another 64 in there to 128, which I think is kind of crazy. But, coaches will point to the percentage of teams that are in college basketball. It's like 19% would make it into the tournament the way it is now. You get like 44% of NFL teams that make that tournament. I think pro football and college basketball are totally different entities, but percentages are percentages. Do you think that there should be an expansion of the tournament? And how do you think that would look? Would you add a whole other layer? Do you add another, set of play-in games? How do you think that looks?
I think the NCAA tournament is, arguably the best sporting event. You can talk about the Super Bowl, but the thing about the NCAA tournament is it's not like a one-day deal. It's a 3-week deal. It's almost like, a celebration of college basketball for a month, into March and then into April, obviously, for the Final Four of the championship games. Sometimes the Final Four is on March 31st, the championship games on April 2nd or whatever, but I feel like the NCAA tournament is such a great event. I'd be really careful about messing with it. And I understand if your program, like let's say you're a mid-major, and you're in a league where the only ticket to the NCAA tournament is winning your conference tournament, and you have a great regular season, and maybe you're one of the top 30 teams in the country, and then you get upset in your conference tournament, and you're going to the NIT. And that's really not a fair system. But do we really need more second division Power 5 teams? I'd almost say if you feel like there's two deserving teams from Missouri Valley or the MAC or whatever, put those guys in. We don't need to see the 11th place team from the Big East or the 8th place team from the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever. But I just think the NCAA tournament is such a great event. I'd be really careful about wanting to mess with that success because I just think you risk maybe diluting it or affecting it. It's just so good. Why do you need to change it?
It's very true. It is. I think it's the best tournament. That in the Champions League, it's worldwide. But yeah, the NCAA basketball tournament is the best. Speaking of with Nick Smith, and then who's going to be the other impact guy? We all know Nick is going to be a one and done guy, and he's going to be probably the leader as far as the number one player. Who's the another one or two guys that you think are really going to shine this year that we don't know about?
Well, I don't know about not knowing about him, but I think Anthony Black's going to be a really great player. He's I know it's a red-white game. It's not even against another team. Although, an inter-squad game with Arkansas could be more competitive than some of the teams they're going to play this year, although they play a really tough schedule. But, yeah, Anthony Black's just such an impressive, unselfish guy. He's a pass-first guy. I'm trying to remember. I think he had 9 assists, 9 rebounds, 4 points, didn't shoot a lot. Maybe took 3 shots. And, he just got such a versatile game. He showed that he played for I think it's the 1800 Team USA. They played down in Tijuana and just obliterated of a lot of teams from Latin America. And, and that was kind of what Black did down there, too. He just he's a really good rebounder for he's 6'7". I don't know. Everybody keeps calling him 6'8", but he's listed 6'7". So I guess maybe 6'7.5" or something. But
It's
he's a guy that's really versatile.
It's the hair that adds the extra height.
Man, he does have some long hair, but I think he's going to be a really good player. Trevor Brazil. I mean, you saw what he did in Europe, and obviously they're playing these club teams and stuff. But he just got, to me, such an upside. He really caught my eye in Tampa at the end of the year. He was clearly Missouri's best player. No offense to Kobe Bryant, he was better. He was their best player. He was one of the best players in Tampa, I thought. And he played 2 games down there because Missouri beat Ole Miss, and then they lost to LSU. But he just got so much athleticism, such great length. I think he's got a high ceiling. And, he got hurt something early in the last season with Missouri, and he missed 6 or 7 games. So I think it took him a while to get comfortable. And then let's face it, he's surrounded by a lot better talent at Arkansas than he was at Missouri. So I think he's a guy that could really thrive in Eric Musselman's system. And he's so athletic, and the way he can get up and down the floor. And I think he can be a pretty decent shooter. Frankly, in Europe, he got to the basket so easily, he didn't really have to shoot threes. But I'd say those are 3 guys. Obviously Nick Smith, Anthony Black, and Brazil. Those guys have just a lot of talent.
I think this team is going to be really tough to score against. The way you describe Black, and from what we've seen from him, he really seems like a very well-rounded player on both sides, and just a really good defensive player too, especially at that size. Muss has talked a lot about this team's ability to defend the perimeter. He's thrown Brazil into that conversation. Jordan Walsh seems like a really good defensive player. Might be, room to grow offensively for him, but, we know Devo can defend. Kamani Johnson's a defensive specialist and rebounding. The MO of an Eric Musselman team is you got to D up, and I think he's got the kind of team to do exactly that.
Well, yeah, he's going to stress defense, and we don't know how it's going to play out during the season, but they're not a particularly good perimeter shooting team. They didn't shoot very well in Europe. I mean, it's a red-white game, right? But they shot 7 of 31 from 3, and after the game, Eric basically said, hey, we're not a great three-point shooting team. We're not a good three-point shooting team. And so that means they're going to have to get to the free throw line a lot, but that's something his teams have always done a good job of, getting the line and then knocking down their free throws when they get there and locking down on defense. I mean, if you're not playing good defense, I think it's kind of like what Nolan Richardson said. If you're not playing good defense, you're not going to play. Mike Anderson was like that too, stressing defense, because that's something you can have. That can be a consistent thing for you. Shooting can come and go. Defense can carry it every night, and I think the player, like an older guy like Devo, he knows what defense does for that team, and how you don't. If you're not having a good game offensively, if you're not a particularly good perimeter shooting team. Defense can carry you, and of course we know how defense can be converted into offense when you force turnovers and go down and get uncontested shots. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good defensive team on the perimeter, and I think they have some rim protectors too. So that should be a strength of this team would be their defense.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.